Have you ever felt stuck in a relationship with a narcissist or a toxic person, and it feels like all they do is take your time, drain your energy, and they don't respect your boundaries? Here's the truth. You do not have to stay stuck in their chaos. Today, I am revealing my powerful but simple unsubscribe framework. And once you learn it, you will never view a toxic relationship the same way again. Hi, I'm Ginny Preem. I'm a keynote speaker, a bestselling author, a master certified professional life coach, and I have a podcast. So I'm really excited to share this framework with you today because I have been speaking this on stages. And not only are you going to find that this applies to toxic relationships and relationships with narcissists, but you are going to be able to use this framework, I call it a filter, to reclaim time, energy, and boundaries at work and in life. And you are going to want to get a pen and paper today or get your notes app out, take some notes, because not only is this relevant and relatable, it's also really catchy. So we can start using this as a common language. In our lives and in our world today, people are overwhelmed. They have decision fatigue. We have so much going on. Everybody's really busy, but are you actually being productive? Then if you have all of that going on and on top of it, you're dealing with toxic people or narcissists, that just compounds and adds that much more onto your plate. So this is designed to be a simple way for you to make better, faster decisions. I don't know if you've ever heard of the sunk cost fallacy, but on my podcast that's currently named Drinking with Gin, I have a whole episode on the sunk cost fallacy. Basically what happens in this, I think it can get compounded even when you're in a toxic relationship, is once we invest so much, then you want to almost keep investing because you don't want to lose everything that you've already invested. And it just becomes this cycle where we hang on to things for longer than we should. So what if I told you that the secret to getting ahead is actually letting go? It's not about doing more. We all have enough going on in our lives. It's about less with intention. But what I'm really excited to share with you today is about how to navigate these relationships with toxic people and narcissists, specifically with my unsubscribe filter. It's a filter, a system, like I said, to help you reclaim time, energy, and boundaries at work and in life. And hey, I have a little secret for you. Come here. You're never going to change a narcissist. So this framework is going to empower you to set those boundaries and reclaim your time and energy that they seem to be taking up, not respecting, and draining. Not only do I have a lifetime of experience dealing with close relationships with narcissists, I have worked with experts, psychologists, psychotherapists, body language experts, former FBI agents, and CIA officers from all around the world to bring you research-backed, evidence-based answers and information to help support you on your own healing journey. Now, that said, I also have over 20 years of experience leading high-performing and high-achieving teams in corporate America. So this framework of unsubscribe is really a combination of all of that to help people perform better, lead better, and live better. All right, let's dive into the framework, which I'm really excited to share with you. So there's 4 components, and each one is going to, you'll see how I'm going to specifically relate it in this video today to dealing with and navigating relationships with toxic people and narcissists. So the first one of the 4 is manage. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on manage because this one is really fun. Because remember, you're not going to change them. All you can do is change and modify your own behavior. And that's where manage is really powerful. So maybe this is somebody that you cannot remove from your life. I get that question a lot. What if this is someone that I can't eliminate from my life? It's my boss and I can't change jobs right now, or whatever that looks like for you. Manage, there's 3 different ways that you can use unsubscribe to manage these relationships. Number 1 is the type of communication. And this one's really important because we know that narcissists like to use your words against you. So if you start managing the type of communication and you put things in writing, so instead of having a phone call, maybe you text, or instead of texting, you email. You want to make sure that you have documentation of things that they said and that you said so that they can't turn your words against you. This in itself can be very helpful. The other way that you can manage this relationship, not only by type of communication, but also about the frequency. So if you see this person every week, maybe you back it down to once a month. Or if it's once a month, maybe you go every other month or once a quarter. Something that gives you a little bit of space, a little bit of breathing room in between these interactions with that person. And then the other type of manage, if we're using unsubscribe in my filter, that is the duration. Does every interaction have to be 90 minutes? Or can it be 60 or 30? Because here's the thing, the more time you give a narcissist, the more they're going to take. The more energy you give them, the more they're going to take. The less boundaries you have with them, the more they're going to bust your boundaries. So you have to this is your way of setting up a framework and setting up your boundaries to reclaim that time, energy, and then establishing your boundaries with them. So manage is for those relationships that maybe you cannot completely eliminate, but this kind of gives you the power of saying, this is how I'm going to interact with this person, and this is how I'm going to change it. And after a certain set of time, so this is not just about unsubscribe, I should say, is not just about walking away from things or people. It's really about establishing what is okay for you. So when you think about unsubscribe, this gives you the power of navigating that relationship, how much time you're spending on it. So when I say it's not just about walking away, this is actionable. So what I want you to do is go ahead and put in the comments if you can think of a relationship or something else that you will apply manage to in your own life. Maybe it's meetings at work that don't have to happen every week or every Monday, or they don't have to necessarily be 90 minutes. If you're a leader, that's a really great way to start. But if you're here, chances are it's because you've dealt with narcissists or you're dealing with them or toxic relationships. So write it down and say, okay, for 3 months, I am going to manage the type, frequency, or duration of this relationship, and then come back and revisit it and see how you feel. Maybe you want to keep that cadence, or maybe it's time to then remanage and look at how you're going to navigate things moving forward. So that's manage. Okay, so the second component of unsubscribe, and specifically how it relates to narcissists and dealing with relationships with toxic people, is what I call swap. Now, swap, even if you just think about it on the simplest level, if I think about removing and unsubscribe from narcissists in my life, what that did is it opened up space for healthy relationships in my life. The long-standing relationships that I've had with healthy individuals, they've flourished. And then it's given me the opportunity to welcome in new healthy relationships that replace those toxic patterns. Helps you attract more of that. But if we think about it in a really tactical, practical level, if I want to give you some tips on how to apply unsubscribe, especially if maybe you can't remove this person from your life for whatever reason, swapping out needing their validation for giving yourself validation and knowing that your worth is not in question. Now, this takes a lot of practice because if you have endured narcissistic abuse, you likely have some people-pleasing tendencies or perfectionism because you're walking on eggshells, always trying to keep them happy. And you always put yourself last. So putting yourself first and reprioritizing yourself and not making everything revolve around them is what I really mean and intend by swap, specifically in this context. Another really powerful swap is, you know that narcissists love to get a rise out of people. They love to get a reaction. They're looking for that. And then once they get that reaction, then they keep pushing the buttons. So if you've been around here for a while, maybe you've heard of my ROR method. And I actually have a downloadable on my website that I'll put a link to in the show notes for you. So instead of reacting to their jabs, their insults, their tearing you down, them trying to get a rise out of you, observing that and how your behavior has been in the past, and then instead respond. This is really powerful. When you respond clearly, concisely, once, state your boundary, and hold to it, this can start to disrupt and change that cycle of abuse. And that cycle of abuse is the idealization, the devaluation, the discard, and then the hoover. And so when you stop giving them an inch and they take a mile by using my ROR method and responding clearly, calmly, concisely, and then sticking to your guns and swapping that out for the reacting, that is going to shift the dynamic in the relationship. Okay, and then just for fun here, I'm going to give you another or a couple maybe other really quick examples of areas in life that we can swap that maybe aren't even related, but just to give you some context and some ideas around how you might use unsubscribe in other areas of your life. I always love to use the example of exercise. If you're a runner and you're injured, maybe you can't run, so you swap it for walk. Or you can't do high intensity interval training right now, so you swap for yoga. There's so many areas that we can relate this to. And so I'll bring it home before we move on to the next pillar. So we covered manage, now we're in swap. And when we talk about swap, I'll give you one more example as it relates to narcissists and dealing with toxic people. And that is swapping out making excuses for their bad behavior. Saying things like, oh, they didn't mean it, or it wasn't that bad, and swapping that for accountability and recognizing the patterns and behaviors so that you can start to shift into protecting yourself. So that's basically swap, where it's exchanging something that's not so healthy for something that is better. And again, this can apply to a lot of different things: outdated negative self-talk, habits, behaviors. There's so many things that this can relate to. All right, so let's move on to the next one, which is mute. And mute is exactly what it sounds like. Again, this isn't about dismissal, and it's not about being disrespectful. Like, unsubscribe is really designed to be resourceful. It's designed to help protect you, your time, and your energy, as well as help you create boundaries that are going to accelerate your life. Because like I said, it's not about more, it's really about less with intention. And that's the important part. So when we think about mute, literally think about hitting that mute button. Maybe you have used mute in your life and you've muted somebody on social media, but mute is really designed to create space. It's taking a break from something or someone in order to see how that space makes you feel. And it gives you that opportunity to find clarity and calm and connection with yourself again. So maybe it is taking a break from this narcissist or this toxic individual. Maybe it's just taking 30 days or 60 days, or maybe that's too long and you can only do 1 day or 2 days or 1 week, whatever that looks like for you. Again, write it down, take a break. And what could be really helpful is journal about how you feel taking that space from this person. Mute could also be, I don't answer their phone call every time they call for X number of days. And then that starts to, again, shift the dynamics. If you are answering the call every single time they call, even when they know that you're busy, that sets an expectation that they take priority. So mute could mean not answering the call every single time. It could be literally taking a 1, 2, a certain amount of time break from this person. A couple of other ways that you can implement mute, or what mute might mean in a relationship with a narcissist or a toxic person, is mute the gossip. Don't engage in it, because you know that this is just something that they fuel and use against you or other people later. So this is a really great way. When you stop engaging in it, then they're not going to keep coming back to you with it. So muting the gossip. And the last way that I'll share, and again, I would love to hear your comments. If there's a way that you feel like you could implement mute, swap, or manage in a relationship with a narcissist, or in another way in your life, put it in the comments because I want to hear from you. But I'll leave you with one more example of mute before we move to the last component of unsubscribe. So the last way you can think about mute is, again, because you can only control your own behavior and not theirs, is mute your oversharing. Do you ever notice how they try to pump you for information and get you to share and overshare about what you have going on in your life? Mute. Don't overshare. You just share necessary information. So in this instance, what mute is really about is less is more, so that you can create that space to care for yourself. The cool thing about unsubscribe is it's not linear. So let's say you manage a relationship and then you decide, okay, I actually need to mute this. And then you go, okay, I want to swap. So these are not mutually exclusive from one another. It's really kind of like this flowing filter that you can utilize any one of the components at any time. It's not sequential. You can revisit different ones, or maybe you do a mute and you're like, okay, this feels good. I'm going to mute for a little longer. But as you're taking accountability for your own actions and you're saying, okay, I'm going to mute for 30 days, come back, see how I feel. Okay, I feel good. I'm going to extend it. And you get to own how this looks in your own life. Now, the final component of unsubscribe, and maybe you already are onto it, but this is when you are ultimately ready to get rid of the narcissist or the toxic person once and for all. And so this is block. Block is the ultimate release, removal, elimination of this toxic behavior and these narcissistic people in your life. And I mean fully committing to it. This is one that we do not come back to and revisit. So if you are ready to do the full elimination, it's a simple block. And the reason why unsubscribe works is because it creates this common language for us, and you'll start to see yourself recall it. And it's so fun for me when I've shared it with audiences from stages and keynote speaking, or on my podcast, or with friends, or with coaching clients. The recall on it is incredible. I get text messages and calls and emails from people saying, oh my gosh, I had this situation, this challenge, this conversation, and I had in the back of my mind, unsubscribe. Unsubscribe. I'm going to manage this one, or I'm going to mute this one, or this one's a full-on block. Unsubscribe. So unsubscribe, or block for unsubscribe, is when you are ultimately ready to release, eliminate, whatever you want to look at. When you release narcissists from your life, I can testify that eliminating narcissists from your life only creates space for healthy relationships to flourish. And the healthiest relationship that you can have is the one with yourself. And by implementing unsubscribe in my own life, I am the healthiest, happiest version I've ever been of my life. I know myself and like myself better than I ever have. And I wanted to share this with you so that you can start implementing these tactics and these actionable steps and items into your own life to create that space and a life that you love. So block is that ultimate elimination. And when you get to that point, it can be really scary because we know that narcissists create anxiety in us. We know that they will threaten that you'll never find somebody as good as them. And they make it seem like you need them. In reality, when you block or eliminate them, that freedom and that sense of clarity and calm, peace, joy, enlightenment that you start to feel again is totally worth it. It's been worth it for me. And I hope that you find that it's worth it for you if and when you get to that point. But when I say block, I mean block. No creeping on their social media, no checking in to see what they're up to. It has to be like this ultimate release, like you are ready to let them go out of your life. And if you decide to do that, I would love to hear how that makes an impact in your own life. So I was so excited to share the full framework and context specifically around relationships with narcissists and toxic people with you here today in this video. And I can't wait to hear your thoughts, your comments, more information to come on updates on unsubscribe. We're going to start using this as a common language with each other. If there are any other topics that you would like for me to cover, please put them in the comments because I want to make sure that I am catering to you. Or if there's another question that you have about unsubscribe or how to use it in other contexts or situations, put it in the comments so that I can make sure that I am giving you the best information that caters to what you're looking for here. Cannot wait to talk to you next time.